This is a topic that I thought I had already recorded a video on, but I was really suffering with jet lag at the time. In the last year, in the last 2 years, jet lag has been a huge factor in my life. Quitting caffeine repeatedly has been a huge factor in my life because I would drink coffee either to cope with jet lag or to just cope with some illnesses like the common cold I had that sometimes made jet lag worse. Yeah, I realized this is the least dramatic complaint about my life I could possibly offer. But yeah, I watched the video I made after the fact, and I hadn't really gotten the point across. And in the same sense that I think every vegan has a video on their channel about why I became vegan, how I first became vegan, and a lot of people have a separate video about how I became a vegan activist. This is really my video about how I became disillusioned with veganism, what was for me the last straw. And that last straw was when I attended a conference in Toronto, Canada. Like I say, I made a video discussing this, but I think due to jet lag, I sort of talked around the issue without speaking directly on the issue. And the issue is this. I went to this conference that brought together the best and the brightest from Canada and the northeastern part of the United States of America. And they were not very good and they were not very bright. Admittedly, I knew to expect this. Met a lot of losers. I met a lot of people who were afraid of me. People who were literally afraid to sit next to me or stand next to me. People who were afraid to make eye contact with me. There were also fans of my channel there. There were some people who ran up to me and acted as if I were famous. There were some people who walked up to me and in a mature and respectful tone said, "Oh, hey, I know your YouTube channel. I really appreciate what you do." That happened also. A lot of fear, a lot of hostility. But what really felt like the last straw for me was going to this conference and hearing all of the kind of pseudo-intellectual bullshit about the future of the movement, all of the abstract talk about how to make the movement better, and then waking up one morning to discover that the participants at this conference had held a genuinely illegal, in my opinion, genuinely violent protest at a slaughterhouse, I believe it was a chicken processing plant, and they had filmed it, and they had uploaded it to Instagram. Later it was uploaded to YouTube, of course. Now, this quote-unquote action, and there were all these pathetic human details. The guy who was actually the manager of the plant sympathized with them, and he ordered the workers not to obstruct them in any way. He said, he said in effect, "Look, I know you guys are right. I know you guys are doing something more." But yeah. So as it happened, the guy in charge of the factory, he didn't want them to be beat up or kicked out or restrained or something, which obviously the factory workers would have been within their rights to do. And, these same people, including John Sackars himself. John Sackars is a notorious YouTuber as well as being a vegan activist. I mean, I'd just been spending time with them face to face. I had a sense of their characters, I had a sense of their personalities. I'd seen them, I'd spoken with them, I'd smelled them. And these people were idiots. These people were cowards. In the parlance of their time, in the parlance of our time, someone like John Sackers, in plain English, is what you'd call a pussy. He's just a pathetic, cringing excuse for a human being. He's afraid to look you in the eye. He's afraid to talk to you. He goes to the dance party and he sits there curled up next to the fireplace and is afraid to get up and dance. And all the attention he's so desperately seeking on YouTube, when he's there in real life at a vegan conference where everyone knows who he is, he's this pathetic shell of a man. And he's in that video, storming into this chicken slaughterhouse, whatever you want to say, meat processing plant. And he's one of the people who inserts himself in liquid concrete just to make it very difficult for the police and ambulance to show up and extricate them from this liquid concrete. And they took wire cutters and, tried to steal some chickens. They tried to cut through some cages and steal some chickens and so on. So, you go to this conference, and it's not just the absence of new ideas. It's not just that a lot of people there fear me. And I say fear rather than hate, advisedly. It's not just that I go to this conference and the one seemingly new idea people were excited about, by the way, was the launch of Extinction Rebellion. Extinction Rebellion that's now basically already ended, but that was just before when Extinction Rebellion was on the way up, and they had this Skype conference with the founder of Extinction Rebellion. I talked to him briefly too. I got to ask a question back and forth. Okay, so there's kind of the naivete and stupidity on the one hand, and then there's really this cynicism and insincerity where they put on the show and dance of questioning the strategy and the tactics of the future of the vegan movement, how we can be better activists and all this stuff. But when it really comes down to it, what they are there for, they being exactly the same people who were in the room with me, the same people who were in the room sitting through a lecture on trans rights and how veganism can be more accepting and encouraging of transgender people, and all these kind of very specific topics. They had specific lectures on and so on. Okay, well, when you're wrapped up with all that theoretical talk, all that anyone wants to do is be a martyr for this movement, get themselves thrown in prison, break the law, and very often kind of overturning exactly what had just been discussed in the classroom, because it was held on a university campus with a chalkboard. Like people had just been talking about the extent to which getting yourself thrown in prison or criminalizing the movement is a bad strategy and tactic, and all this stuff has been talked about. I can discuss what I think about this. What really made it feel like the last straw for me was how I felt about it. It's just emotionally, I had so much contempt for these people. And it is a little bit different when you've been in the room with them, you've seen them, you've smelled them, you've talked to them, you've eaten vegan muffins with them or whatever, standing around at this vegan conference. And then you see that video go up the next day. You see what they're really doing. You see what they're really trying to recruit people for, right? And I'll be honest with you, all of the intellectual pretensions of what was going on in the vegan movement seemed to me, one, like a smokescreen, because what they're really recruiting you for is this so-called direct action, is the violent and illegal, side of the movement. And then two, it seemed like it was an insincere beard, an insincere front for the purposes of fundraising, right? When I first came on YouTube, I said very clearly, I'm here to make friends. One of the reasons I said that was that there were a lot of hostile militant vegans who would say to you in a sort of strange, angry, self-righteous way, I'm not here to make friends. Like they would boast that they're not here to make friends. They're here to save the planet, or they're here to liberate the animals. They're here to achieve, they don't care how many enemies they make. Those same people, of course, turn out to be cowards. They turn out to be namby-pamby. They turn out to have no spine and no sense of purpose and resolve, but that's kind of another story. There was a lot of that kind of tough talk. And I'd say to people, you're not here to make friends? Well, I am. Because when I look at the history of intellectual movements and political movements, what I see again and again is they begin with people forming a salon. They begin with 5 or 12 intellectuals who meet at a salon and drink coffee together, talking about their ideas, publishing a magazine, publishing a journal, publishing a book, doing the research, right? And in so doing, creating a crossroads for like-minded people with common objectives and common grounds to meet and amass and get organized in the pursuit of political change. Okay, so I actually am here to make friends, and I see friendship as a very necessary first phase before taking those other steps that can include things like publishing books, right? You think publishing books isn't radical? I can name 6 books right now that completely transformed the world, including The Gospel of Jesus Christ, a book I disagree with, a book I despise. I mean, I also despise Karl Marx and a lot of these other people, but you can't deny people wrote books that transformed the world in a way that a street protest never can, right? So writing books can be the most radical activity we can engage in of all. purely empirical observation here. I don't like Muhammad the Prophet either, but the book Muhammad the Prophet wrote changed the whole world, right? We can go through a long list here. And you could even argue with someone like Napoleon Bonaparte, who did become a dictator. Nevertheless, what he wrote down on paper, including writing a new law, the Napoleonic Code, but you could argue that his writing had even more influence than the battles he fought and the wars he won. Okay? I said from my first appearance here on YouTube, I am here to make friends. And I think that friends are an important part of intellectual life, political organization, and the future of the vegan movement, one way or another, is going to hobble forward on the basis of friendships between highly effective people who are highly motivated to get something positive done. And when I went to that event in Toronto, it really felt... I went to several events in Toronto, truth be told, vegan events, and I thought, wow, there isn't even one person here, not one person who would be my colleague, not one person who would be my friend. There is neither the beginning nor the ending of a salon, of a movement, of a publication. There's absolutely no hope. It's just me. It's all on me. And if I'm going to be a one-man movement, let me tell you something. That movement is not going to be called veganism.